How's everyone doing today? It's your boy JJ Domination, and today we're going to be doing a NFL on Thanksgiving recap. I know a lot of people did this on Friday. I was kind of busy during the weekend, trying to do a few things. I was able to do the prediction video, of course. I'm going to have to go back and see how we did. I'm pretty sure we did good, because I did notice that my upset of the week was actually a success, so I would assume that we did pretty good. Anyway, let's just talk about the Thanksgiving games. There were 3 of them, and the 3 goes as followed. The Chicago Bears at the Detroit Lions, the Buffalo Bills at the Dallas Cowboys, and the New Orleans Saints at the Atlanta Falcons. So we're going to start off with the first one. Now, this game right here, guys, Bears at Lions. Like you're getting the final stuff compared for like Thanksgiving, and your family's about to come over. They might come over sometime during the second quarter, but this game is a very interesting one to start off with. It's like a tradition for the Lions to be on TV for Thanksgiving. By the way, I hope you all had an awesome Thanksgiving. For those watching, who watch my videos, I hope you had an awesome Thanksgiving. If you don't watch my videos, then you would have had a good Thanksgiving if you watched my videos. So yeah, let's get into it. And we're going to start off with the Bears at the Lions, and we're going to start off with the quarterback performances. We're going to start off with David Blau versus Mitchell Trubisky. So David Blau, for those that don't know, and this was actually new to me because I had no clue who this dude was. He is an undrafted free agent from the 2019 class out of Purdue, and he was a senior at Purdue when Purdue blew out Ohio State, and was arguably the reason Ohio State didn't make the college football playoffs that year, was because they got blown out by Purdue. Yeah, he was the quarterback. He had an awesome game, like 400 yards, 4 touchdowns against Ohio State. So yeah, if you're an Ohio State fan and you're pissed off about not making the playoffs that year, you might want to blame David Blau, because he was pretty much the reason why you didn't. So, David Blau, first NFL start, first NFL action, really, since the preseason. And an interesting story about him, he was on the Cleveland Browns roster as like the 3rd string quarterback, and the Browns, I think, were going to release him in the final wave of cuts, and the Detroit Lions traded for him for a future 7th round pick. And obviously, like, he had been on the roster. They kind of had him on the practice squad for a minute, and then they put him back on the regular roster. And it's just very interesting, man. It's interesting that the Lions saw something in him and was like, we'll keep you around. And, then it comes time for him to play, and he actually played pretty well, considering this is his first game, undrafted, kind of new here, but not really. I mean, he deserves a lot of props. Yeah, he missed some throws. Yeah, he did have a little bit of a tendency to throw the ball away, which is a good thing. I don't see why people look at that as a bad thing. You would rather him force something and turn it over, or throw it away and save yourself. So it really just depends on preference. But he did have a tendency to throw it away, which is a good thing depending on who you ask. He just played pretty well, considering this is his first, NFL action. And, he was out there killing it, man. Like, he was throwing some really good passes to Kenny Golladay. A few drops, though, in this game from Marvin Jones especially. Like, he could have had more, of everything, more yards, more completions, maybe even a touchdown more. But Marvin Jones really had a rough day. Like, he had a few drops, I believe. They actually started to use TJ Hawkinson more, but then TJ Hawkinson got hurt at the end of the game, and he was really only getting like a few yards here and there on catches. Like, they really weren't spreading the field with him, which is weird. I still don't know why they don't use him as much. But speaking of guys who, I guess are getting used, Bo Scarborough, he's really had an opportunity to play the past few weeks, with the Kerryon Johnson injury and Ty Johnson not playing as well, and J.D. McKissick is kind of like a pitch relieving running back, a guy that could do a little bit of everything, but not your every down guy. This team definitely relied on Bo Scarborough, who, of course, is drafted by Dallas and, released, and he's been on some practice squads, he's been to some workouts, and Detroit picks him up. And the last few weeks he's actually played pretty well considering, he's keeping himself in game shape. He's, going from team to team, practice squad to practice squad. He had another good game here. I don't know what the box score was for him. I don't know what his stats look like. But he definitely did rip off some really good runs in this game. And to me, that's all that matters. Like, are you picking up first downs? Are you converting in these short yard situations? And he checked off the boxes. Also, I do want to talk about Kenny Golladay. So it's interesting. I did see a little post. You know how NFL memes are, man. They're trying to trigger certain fan bases on every post. I don't put a whole lot of stock into it. Like, it is what it is. Like, clearly, like, if you don't know what they're doing by now, then you're just a fucking idiot. But they were saying, like, the best receiver in the NFC North was Kenny Golladay. And, of course, that's not true. But for him to be, like, the fourth best receiver in this division actually says a lot about the receiving talent we have in the division. And I'm a Packer fan, of course. So, of course, you got, like, Devontae Adams, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, and now you got Kenny Golladay. And the thing that's more beautiful about that is none of those guys are first-round picks. The highest drafted one was Devontae Adams, who I believe was a second-round pick for Green Bay. And then you have Adam Thielen, who's undrafted. Stephon Diggs, who I think was like a fifth or a sixth-round pick. And then I think Kenny Golladay was either a third or a fourth-round pick. So it's just interesting to see that, our division has 4 really good receivers, and none of them were like top-tier draft picks or anything. The closest one was Devontae, who was like a mid-second round pick. And I do want to give a shout-out to Javon Wims, the wide receiver from UGA, go Dogs, I guess. I don't know. Like, I'm a Georgia fan, but I'm not really, like, fully devoted to them, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know. It's weird. Like, I am, but I'm not. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know a lot of people who are Georgia fans. My mom works with, like, a hardcore season ticket holder, and, like, I get a lot of merch, so I would say I am, in a way. But anyway, that's the end of that story. Shout out to Javon Wims, man. He's a second-year player from UGA. I really liked him at UGA. I thought he was pretty good. And I was always interested to see where he was going to go. And some people were saying he was going to be undrafted. I'm like, nah, man, someone's going to take a flyer on him. And that somebody was Chicago, which kind of sucks because they play in my division against the Packers. But he's been getting some more playing time recently. A lot of that has to do with the Taylor Gabriel injury. But to be honest, even if he wasn't injured, I always thought eventually this dude's going to get playing time. And he's going to show everyone that he's pretty good. And he has. And he has played very well. And yes, I'm aware of Detroit's defense and how it's been very disappointing. And it's not really that great of a defense. But, Javon Wims really just looks good. I mean, he high-pointed the ball a few times when Mitchell Trubisky overthrew him constantly throughout the game, and he was able to high-point the ball, and that's really good for Javon Wims, finding a role in the offense. And I guess we'll talk a little bit about Mitchell Trubisky's performance, per se. He actually didn't play as bad. This was actually a pretty good game from him. Yeah, he had his moments where he looked like Mitchell Trubisky, like doing the same old shit that we know he would do, which is, overthrowing people, panicking after the first read isn't there. He got beat up too. I mean, there was like, I think he fumbled in this game maybe, but there was like a roughing the passer call that wasn't called, and yeah, like he got his shit rocked a couple of times, man. Like, it was rough for him in that game. I kind of felt bad for him, but not a terrible game from him. He actually ended up finishing the game pretty well, and he led a good drive down the field where it was basically all him, mixed in with a little bit of David Montgomery. But it's just encouraging to see. I'm pretty sure Mitchell Trubisky, just like you heard all the noise about him shutting off the TVs and stuff, like, I'm pretty sure he hears all the quarterback noise and how Chicago could be in the market for a QB. I'm sure he hears all that, and he just tries his best to play through all of the noise and whatnot. So shout out to him for at least playing well and getting the job done. And Detroit's defense, man, it's very interesting because even I didn't expect Detroit's defense to be god-awful. Like, I thought, okay, second year in Matt Patricia's system, a lot of guys are going to find a solidified role, and they're gonna click. Yeah, they might have their injuries along the way, but I definitely think the guys can click. Well, some guys have been hurt, and also this defense just isn't that good. I wish I had an explanation, but they're just not that good. The secondary, it's Darius Slay or bust. I mean, there's some good players within the secondary. Like, yeah, Tracy Walker is pretty good. I like how he's been able to improve ever since he's gotten to Detroit. Let's see, you've got, what's his name, Justin Coleman, the former Seahawk corner, who is like their nickel corner, but he's been having to play on the outside due to injuries. They drafted a nice rookie from Penn State, Oraware or whatever his name is. But it's just tough because this team gives up a lot of yards. They give up a good amount of points. You can run on them despite them having, like Snacks Harrison, Mike Daniels, Trey Flowers, Deshaun Hand, Ashawn Robinson. And I know a lot of those guys have been in and out of the lineup and they've been hurt. And Trey Flowers recently has been turning it on. I think he has 5 sacks in the last 5 games. But on the year he has 6 sacks. And in my opinion, I think teams knew what they were getting with him. Even I said it at the time, I don't really think it's a great signing, for Detroit, and I think they severely overpaid him. Yes, his career high or his season high in sacks is 7.5, and it did come in Matt Patricia's system and the Belichick system or whatever. I get that, I understood that, but to me, if you're gonna pay a defensive end or an edge rusher that much money, they gotta offer a little bit more than 7.5 sacks, buddy. That's just not gonna cut it. Yeah, he does some good things in run defense. He could definitely apply some pressure, put some bend on those tackles, but he's just not doing it consistent enough, and it's not really translating to much. But that's probably an indictment on the defense because they're terrible, and I think that's safe to say. I don't know what Detroit's going to do in the draft defensively, but I know there's a dude from Clemson, and I think I've said this a couple of times, Isaiah Simmons, could be a good player in Matt Patricia's defense. He's a safety linebacker hybrid. Might be pretty good. I'd probably take a look at him if I were Detroit, if he's on the board. And by the way, since I'm doing the Thanksgiving recap, these recaps are going to be longer and more in-depth. I still have the same amount of bulletin points as I do for all of them, but because it's 3 games, we're going to be in-depth with it. You know what I'm saying? So let's just go ahead and move on. Bills at Cowboys. Run the ball, Dallas. Run the damn football. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott did not get a rush attempt after the 3rd quarter with 9 minutes and 40 seconds to go. That is laughable. That is embarrassing. And it's not like they were getting blown out either. They had chances to run the football, kill the clock, and make sure Buffalo can't do shit on offense. But it's like they abandoned the run. They just stopped running the ball, and it just doesn't make any sense. And I'm sick of people online always arguing, oh, it's Zeke's team, it's Dak's team. Well, I don't know whose team it is, and quite frankly, I don't care. I don't get this narrative of, oh, it's Dak's team, or oh, it's Zeke's team. To me, if Zeke plays well, the Cowboys are going to win. That's my opinion. If Zeke has a good game, y'all are going to win. If Zeke doesn't have a good game and he can't get in the rhythm because he gets 12 carries and he doesn't get 75 rushing yards, you guys are 1-11 or 1-12 when Zeke gets 75 rushing yards. Yeah, I know it's one of those coincidental statistics or whatever, but Buffalo's run defense entering this week was average. I don't know, anywhere from 16 to 20. I can't remember exactly, or 16th to 20th ranked. I think they're 19th now. And it's yeah, if I see they have a weakness, I'm going to run the football. If they can't stop the run, I'm going to run it until they force me not to. And it's not like Dallas was getting blown out. Like I said, I think it was 13 to 10 at halftime. You could have came out of the half, ran the ball a little bit, do some play action boots, and stuff like that. And I know a lot of people are going to blame Jason Garrett, but isn't Kellen Moore the play caller? Why did Zeke, not exist after 9 minutes and 40 seconds in the run game. Why did we stop running the football with Zeke? Not we, but speaking figuratively, like the Dallas Cowboys. Like, why did they stop running the football with Zeke? It just doesn't make sense. You know, like, yeah, you can blame Jason Garrett for that, but isn't Kellen Moore your offensive coordinator? And then, you know, like, just there was some bad coaching instances from Jason Garrett in this game. Like, I think the Bills were bluffing like a cover zero, and they saw like, oh, you know, this is the adjustments they're going to make. All right, let's call a timeout. And that was just to scare them. Now we know how they're going to actually look in a cover zero look. So now we know what they're going to do. And that was a good point by Tony Romo. Sometimes coaches do that strategically to see how you're going to respond or come out to make the adjustments. That was a good call from Romo. Romo, of course, can't go wrong with his commentary. He's awesome. You know how it is with Tony Romo. Josh Allen, though, another awesome week, and he's starting to heat up, and it's probably coming at the right time, I guess you could say. They do play Baltimore this upcoming week, and of course, you know, on the weekly recap, which will be probably Wednesday, I think is when it's going to come out. We're going to talk, of course, about Baltimore, and we're going to probably preview this matchup a little bit, but I will say this, unlike Dallas, Baltimore is going to run the shit out of the football because they know Buffalo can't stop it, and they literally went up against San Francisco, and they did their best to contain it, but, you know, at the end of the day, they lost, and they couldn't shut it up, you know, shut it down, I guess you could say. The Bills defense, you know, they did show up. Like, after that first drive, though, like, they gave up a touchdown or whatever. That was pretty much it. Like, the Cowboys got a garbage time touchdown after that. Yeah, they would drive a little bit. They picked up, you know, like a fourth down on their side of the field. Dallas, that being. So, it's like, yeah, like, they would do their little thing, get some yardage, but the Bills did a good job of creating takeaways. Like, I think they picked off Prescott once or twice. There was a fumble in there. Like, Tre'Davious White, like, after the first quarter, really started to play well. But Prescott did end the game with, like, 355 passing yards. You know, it's a lot of garbage time stats. So, when you look at the league leaders in, like, passing yards, yeah, Prescott's going to be, like, top 3. It's just empty calories, man. Like, I don't really give a damn about yardage anymore. I just don't. I don't care. It's not impressive. Like, yeah, you know, if I'm losing and getting... They weren't getting blown out per se, but they were losing pretty bad. You know, if I'm losing pretty bad, like, yeah, I'm going to pad my numbers too, because it'll make me look good and it'll do good for contract talk. But speaking of contract talk, I mean, no progression with Dak stuff. Like, he might get franchise tagged. And apparently, I read something the other day, Amari Cooper and Byron Jones might hit the open market, which I think is a huge mistake. You know, Amari Cooper should get paid. Byron Jones should get paid. I know he's not having a great season. Last year was his real, you know, great season. This year he's been fine. Not quite what Cowboy fans have become accustomed to. But it's so hard to replace a good corner in this league. Yeah, you can replace a wide receiver. Maybe not of the caliber of Amari Cooper per se, but you can definitely find wide receivers that can produce. Good luck finding a good corner. You know, they don't hit the market unless they really want, like, quarterback money like Jalen Ramsey. You know, they're not going to hit the market, so good luck. You know, good luck with that, you know, if Byron Jones does hit the market. And also, you know, Dak Prescott, like we said, he might get franchise tagged. And for me, with Dallas, like, they're 6-6, right? And we're going to talk about more about their division on the weekly recap because, trust me, I'm going to go in on Philadelphia for losing to Miami. You know, I've been reluctant on making a video about Dallas or Philadelphia because this division is just a train wreck. Like, if you want my honest opinion, the winner of this division shouldn't make it to the playoffs. They just shouldn't. They're both terrible. Like, yeah, they might win a game in the playoffs, but they suck. Both teams just aren't that good. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Plain and simple. Good job from Buffalo. You know, you'll play Baltimore next week. Should be an entertaining matchup. For Dallas, who do they play? The Bears on Thursday Night Football. That's a winnable game for them. But again, we'll see. Depends on which Dallas team we get. We never know these days. Saints at Falcons. I really didn't have a whole lot of bulletin points for this one. It was just kind of a whatever game. Like, yeah, it was entertaining. It was a good game to watch to close out Thanksgiving. But let's talk about it. 9 sacks for that Saints defense, man. They came to play. And they've had a few performances like this over the year. And one of my, sleeper picks for Defensive Player of the Year, well, one of them was Myles Garrett until he had to beat someone's ass with a helmet. But the other one was Cam Jordan, and I don't see, how he can't be in the conversation. Like, I'm sure there are better candidates, and I'm just not thinking of them. Like, yeah, maybe Stephon Gilmore, maybe, I don't know. Like, it's tough. I think it should be Cam Jordan. Hell, maybe it could be Nick Bosa. Maybe a rookie could win Defensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year. Like, that's definitely possible. But to me, man, I think it's Cam Jordan. I just think it has to be at this point. And I actually wrote down in my notes, poor Matt Ryan, because he got his ass kicked. This offensive line is not good. And they drafted 2 offensive linemen in the first round. Caleb McGarry, honestly, I'll have to look more at, specifically Caleb McGarry and his tape and what he's done. But to me, he just hasn't been that good. Not as good as, you thought he would be early on, depending on your expectations. I thought at least he would be, a little glue piece early on. But he just hasn't been. I didn't really like his tape all that much. I know he's aggressive. He's a strong dude. But he just looked a little stiff in pass protection. And obviously, it has showed up. But Chris Lindstrom, of course, he's been hurt. Kind of hard to assess a player that's been hurt for the majority of the season. But, obviously he was looked at as the better offensive lineman that they drafted. But it's just very interesting, Atlanta. I feel bad for Matt Ryan getting his ass kicked. And then he got stiff-armed through the ground by Shy Tuttle, who made an awesome play on, the football. I think he picked off, a screen pass or a ball got deflected, and he caught it. It was just cool. And then he stiff-armed Matt Ryan. I felt bad for him, but it was a funny meme. Young Ho, or Young, however you say his name for reals, but what is it, Young Wei Koo? Nah, it's Young Ho Koo. We call him Young Ho around here. The man's a goat, okay? The man, freaking recovered 2 onside kicks. And maybe it was 3, but he recovered 2 because he had to redo 1. And then I think he had to redo it again, and then he just recovered it a second time. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, Atlanta. Young Wei Koo, Young Ho Koo. That's what's up. He did actually have, his worst kicking game in terms of, extra points and field goals, but the man recovered 2 onside kicks. Come on. And then also, this is more of a shout out to Jarrett Cook. He's been getting a lot more involved recently, and I think a lot of that has to do with the extra attention to Michael Thomas, which makes sense. Amari Cooper really didn't have a great game. Really, or not Amari Cooper. What's his name? Alvin Kamara. My bad. Alvin Kamara really didn't have that great of a game. Taysom Hill, though, holy crap. Let's talk about him for a second. All right. Rushing touchdown, check. Receiving touchdown, check. Blocked punt, check. The man was everywhere. He did a little bit of everything. Very exciting times, man. I've said this about Taysom Hill. Yeah, he was good on the Packers. It would have been cool to keep him on the Packers, but Mike McCarthy wouldn't have utilized him the way that Sean Payton has just figured out what he can do. And it's tough. Oh, you used to have that player. That could have been, he could have been nice for you. And it's yeah, he could have, but he just didn't fit the timeline. I'm sure, Andy Reid could use him like this, maybe. I don't know quite yet about Matt LaFleur. I think he would have just ran with a bunch of base stuff. But this was a great situation for Taysom Hill. Yeah, he did some cool things for Green Bay. We weren't going to keep him. I mean, let's just be real. He was a fan favorite there, too. And what he's been able to do ever since leaving and getting this opportunity is just make the most of it. And he's done everything that's asked of him. Yeah, he's a quarterback on the depth chart, but he's much more than that. He's a football player. you know, and he runs the ball, he gets to catch it, he gets to throw it, he gets to do like a wildcat or an option offense at times. And you know, I'm just waiting for him to play safety on the Hail Mary attempt. I think that has to be next. You know, like, I'm waiting on that day to come, because I think he could definitely do it and do a great job at it. And of course, we see him on special teams. He returns kicks, he blocks punts. Like, he's just amazing, and he definitely deserves a shout out for that. No Julio Jones for the Falcons in this game. It was mainly, you know, Calvin Ridley and whoever else they can find. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this little Thanksgiving recap. You know, I definitely spent more time on this, mainly because it's 3 games and I can kind of go a little bit more in depth. But of course, for the weekly recap, you already know, it's going to be rapid fire. It's going to be good. And I'm going to be in a lot better mood since Green Bay won, you know, this week. Granted, they faced the Giants, but I'm going to be in a better mood. So it's going to be a better show. And hopefully you guys enjoyed, and peace out.